think we should probably start moving toward a seat. Getting close to 6:30, I would like to start right on time. Our candidates here, I'm sure, albeit at the beginning, or maybe the middle of this political season for them, I'm sure that they've been through a lot. Probably pretty exhausted. I'd like to thank everyone in attendance this evening. I would especially like to thank the 6 candidates running for the school board. Mrs. Forrest, Mrs. David, Mr. Bonant, Mr. Young, Mrs. Flinkowitz, and Mr. Lefebvre. I would also like to thank the maintenance staff, Mike in the back, Conant High School, for putting this together for us. You'll notice that very well done, very well organized, and extremely clean. And that is a true tribute to our maintenance staff and Mike and his staff. For those that don't know me, my name is John Braglia. I'm a social studies teacher and department chair of social studies here at Conant High School. I'm finishing my 29th year, and I think I've been president of the union for maybe 27, 28. Some of you are saying, why would you do this? I often ask myself the same, but seriously, it's something I am passionate about. I felt in the beginning it was a way for me to give back to a great district. I was schooled in District 211, proud product of 54, and a proud graduate of Conant High School. So I owe a great deal to this district, to the people that work here, and to these 6 folks who have agreed to volunteer their time to ensure that this place continues to run as it always has. Now, tonight's event is somewhat informal to those of you that are aficionados of school board candidate forums. And I know there are probably some in the crowd that love to attend these things. I've spoken with each one of the candidates. They've all complied with what we asked them to do to participate, which was to complete a questionnaire, which they all did. That the answers to their questionnaire will only be available to Northwest Suburban Teachers Union members on the secured website. Now, if the candidates would like to share their questionnaires and their responses, they are entirely welcome to do so. But that was more for our members. If you will look at the program that was put together by someone else that I'd like for you to please give a round of applause to, Ms. Diane Kubitz, office manager of our local. She's truly in charge. I pretty much just do what I'm told. You will see that we've included bios that were prepared by each one of the candidates, carefully prepared. The questions that each one of the candidates answered, and then the agenda. The format is really simple. There will be 2 rounds, actually 3 rounds if you want to count the introductions. Each candidate will be given about 2 minutes to say something about themselves to all of you. Once we've been through the introduction round, each candidate will then be asked to provide a 5-minute response to each of the 3 topics identified on the agenda: school management, school finance, and community engagement. They are welcome to share whatever they feel is important with respect to those 3 topics. Some of the things that I've listed below are just merely things for them to consider as they compile their thoughts prior to comment. Once we have moved through that segment, we will then open round 2 up to a question and answer segment. Now, that's the part I want to talk about, as well as round 1. This is high school. This is a place of learning. I really don't care what many people think about how they are or what their rights are in terms of behavior. I have been contacted by these folks, and their concerns have been made very clear to me. And their concerns are being addressed right now. We will maintain decorum in this room. We will maintain decorum in this room. One person said to me tonight, "Are you the judge and the jury?" I am. I'm the judge, the jury, and the hangman. I have hired a Hoffman police officer who is in the room, who will be happy to usher anyone out that doesn't agree with the guidelines of this meeting. We have Sergeant of Arms stationed around the room, teachers and staff members of District 211. When the Q&A segment begins, they will allow you to ask questions. Our staff member will hold the microphone, and you will be allowed to ask the question to the respective board member. If the question is inappropriate, if it's antagonistic, or if it's contradictory to the decorum as described for this room, the microphone will be pulled away and you'll be asked to sit down. If anything else ensues after that, you will be asked to politely leave. I can't emphasize the importance of what I just said. We have children in this room that were encouraged to be in attendance by teachers. I have kids here that are here getting extra credit for a political science unit. I will not have them see a carnival or a circus performed by adults. Now, if anybody has a problem with any of that, you're free to leave right now. If everybody can agree to those terms, then I say let's get on with this event. Thank you. All right. First, Mrs. Forrest, do you mind starting introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Jean Forrest. I'm a candidate for District 211 school board, and I'm running as part of the slate with Kate and Ralph. I guess just to tell you a little bit about myself. The school board officials are entrusted with the stewardship of the community resource to bring the educational opportunity for our children. As a mother of 2 high school children, I feel that I can relate to the taxpayers who work hard day in and day out to bring, to get the ends meet, and also to send their kids to the college to get the best possible education. So I value education highly. I decided to run for the Board of Education because I've noticed I think the current board has some problems. The biggest issue I've noticed is that I don't think the current board bring the community's value to the table. And there's some other issues I've noticed is that I think there's a lack of concern for the worried taxpayers, especially for the senior citizens who live on fixed income. And also there's a lack of transparency in the decision-making process. I've always worked as an actuary, both in the insurance industry and in consulting. I have over 10 years of experience in financial auditing and asset liability management. I'm a fellow of the Society of Actuaries and a member of the American Academy of Actuaries. I feel that my strong financial background will help me to the school board make some financial decisions. And I always been very actively involved in the local schools and churches, and also in a professional organization. And I look forward to serving the community with my financial expertise and to work with all the stakeholders in our community, including all the teachers, all the parents, and the students and the administration, to make our school district a better place for our children.
Thank you, Mrs. Forrest. I would ask, the candidates have bios in the program. If you would want to step off, or if you feel it's important to restate, that's fine. If there are other things you want to talk about, that's fine. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi, my name is Catherine David. I live in Palatine. I'm going to maybe be a little brief, but I just wanted to let you know, first, I'm a parent. I have 3 children. One of my oldest daughter graduated from a D211 school last year. I have an incoming student coming into a D211 school this fall. And I want, same as Jean, I want the best education for my children. And then my third is in preschool, so I have a long way to go. So, hopefully I'll be able to serve the community. Not sure if I'll be on the board at that point, but that's one of the biggest goals of why I decided to campaign to be on the board. Is because our children are important to us, and education is of course one of the biggest resources that it can jumpstart a child into becoming an adult, getting a job, and so education of course is really important to me. And I think D211 schools have done a great job with my daughter, and I'm proud that she graduated last year from one. The second part is I'm a taxpayer just like you guys. And I just brought my tax bill here because I'm tired of seeing my taxes go up. The last 5 years my taxes have increased dollar for dollar. The actual D211 percentage has actually gone up 30% in the last 5 years. So I'm tired of seeing that. I want the school and the board to make sure that the taxpayers are being represented and that we can efficiently use funds without sacrificing the quality of education. Third, I'm your neighbor. I've lived here not my whole life. I'm actually originally from St. Louis, but I've lived here in the northwest suburbs for long enough to just be a regular neighbor living here. And I want to make sure that your voice is represented. Just regular families, regular taxpayers are represented on our school board, because really that is the purpose of the school board, is to represent the community's beliefs and values. My background, just really brief, I don't want to go too far into the details, is that I'm in marketing. That's what my degree is, business administration marketing. I have 20 years of marketing experience, mostly in financial marketing, served in various roles, project management, vendor relationships, managerial positions. So that's a little bit about me.
Mrs. Davis, I just want to make a point of, when I became union president, I said I was only going to do it for 1 term. It was 25 years ago, so you better be careful what you wish for.
Hello, my name is Ralph Bonetz. I'm a Schaumburg resident. I have 2 children who are currently in a District 211 school. My path toward making this decision started a little over a year ago. There were some key concerns that kind of drew my attention to what was going on in the school district. And then as I progressed, I went to some public hearings. I saw a few things that concerned me in terms of procedure and open dialogue and deliberation. Many of you probably know one of the things that governs how we do business at the Board of Education is something called Robert's Rules. And for all of you students out there with extra credit, you probably know what Robert's rules are already, but one of the key parts of that is deliberation. A motion's brought to the floor, and there's deliberation. And even if you've made up your mind ahead of time why you're going to vote on something, it's important for the purposes of transparency that you state your position and you give some information about why you're voting the way you're voting. And this was one of the things I didn't see happening, and it concerned me. And so I said, it's one thing to have a lightning rod issue that gets you involved and wants you to, take action, but being a board member, it's much bigger than that. If that's the only reason you're getting involved, you're not going to last very long. And I'm really happy I came to that realization, because over the past year I've been attending a lot of board meetings, probably over 50% of them, taking copious notes, talking with some of the board members, really getting a feel for what is the full breadth of responsibilities that a board member has. What are the draws on their time? what are some of the things that they're going to be asked to do on a reoccurring basis? Maybe attend committees and do committee reports. One of the people I'm running against, Anna Klunkowitz, she does that particularly well. She always seems to be prepared with her committee reports and has a lot of good things to say. And I give her big credit and points for that, because I didn't see all of the board members doing things like that. And so as I became familiar with the roles and responsibilities, and as I weighed all these things, I just said, I want to get into this race, and I want to do this, and I didn't take the step lightly. I looked at my situation in life, where I was at, and I said, this is a wonderful opportunity, because I probably will be no closer in touch with what's happening on a day-to-day basis in the schools than when I have my own kids in the schools. And it's good for all of you out there, because as a parent, you know that I'm going to want the best for the students. I want them to have the best resources. I want them to have access to good education and all those sorts of things. So as a parent, I bring that. As a taxpayer, I'm sensitive to the tax burden on the district residents. And I would focus on getting the best value for every tax dollar that you're contributing. And then as an information technology professional, I've gained a lot of experience and skills over the last 19 years and wisdom. I'm a manager. I've had to manage departments, manage budgets. I've had to mentor people. I've had to set goals and objectives. And then I've had to lead those teams to meet and exceed those goals and objectives. So I think I'm uniquely qualified, and I can bring a lot to the board, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Well, in the spirit of preserving decorum, it's nice to hear a candidate compliment another candidate. I want to thank you for that, Mr. Bonas. And along with that, I would also like to recognize somebody who we're very fortunate to have in attendance tonight, who I think epitomizes that exact type of behavior, both in election and while representing us in Springfield. Representative Fred Crespo is in the back of the room, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Representative, for being here this evening. With that, we will move on next to Mr. Ed Young.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ed Young. I'm a resident of Inverness. I moved into this community 21 years ago, just so as I can send my kids to District 15 as well as District 211 schools. I felt that it was very important that children have the best basis, best type of education, and I felt District 211 offered it. Compared to the ACT scores, and compared to graduation rates, and I always felt that it was good. I got involved, actually I was on the District 15 school board for 2 terms, and then I was also on District 211 board for 1 term. I always felt it was important to be involved and to know what's going on, and running for the board and being on the board was a very critical point, in what I was thinking. I agree with the other 3 candidates that are here, that we're here for the education of our kids. We do this because we love our kids, and that's important. And the important thing you have to realize too is when you're serving on this board, there's over 13,000 kids in this district. When you get on this board, you're really parents for each one of those 13,000 kids, and you have to understand and try to direct the programs to help them succeed. It's important that, education is probably one of the most important things in life. I mean, if you're not lucky to be an athlete and make a multi-million-dollar contract for the NBA or something like that, you've got to have an education, you've got to have a basis to build your life and career on. And I think it's important that the district school board members go for that goal. I think it's important that also the school board members communicate with the community. I've always felt that way. However, a lot of people never really approach me. And I'm very approachable. You can find me at a lot of student events. You can find me at a lot of sporting events. In fact, I'll be down in state tomorrow when the basketball girls team trying to take the state. But I think, in my essence, I think education is important. It's a key to everything in life. And I think in district to a level, we try to establish as many different types of programs and different ideas to try to guide the kids into a direction that they're going to make their lifelong decisions on what they want to do in life. And I want to make sure that these kids have that opportunity to have those programs. But I also want to make sure that we keep within the means of our budget, not to go over anything. So, at this point, that's it.
Next up is Mrs. Anna.
Thank you. Good evening. I thank you very much for being here this evening, and I thank you for allowing me to serve 19 years on this school board. And as John said, when I originally ran a number of years ago, my platform was on communication, was on putting students first, and was on being open and honest. I still believe all of those things. The time has gone by quickly. I love the volunteering, because this is a volunteer position. I love working with our students, attending the different activities, talking with parents and grandparents that are sitting in the audience, and seeing how proud they are of their students. I love seeing our students, not just the athletes and how hard they work, but all of our students who participate in the arts. They put in so much time, whether it's the band, whether it's orchestra, whether it's the performances. Everything is just phenomenal. And I am so grateful to have an opportunity to be part of it, because that's just very important to me. Over the last couple of years, I have been encouraging our board to do a strategic plan. And working with Dr. Cates, we were able to do that. I think we had a group of community members that served as facilitators for it. We had a phenomenal turnout. We had surveys that came back. There was communication, there was interaction, and there was a lot of feedback with teachers, staff, the students, the community. And I thought that that was tremendous. And the strategic plan allows us to start moving forward and taking a look at our capital improvements, the classes that we offer, college and career readiness. Just a lot of things got pulled together, which was absolutely phenomenal. As far as my background, I've ended up working in the human services field for the last 20 years, if not longer than that, 25. I went back to school a couple of years ago and got my master's in human services, and I also got my license, have my license as a licensed professional counselor. That adds something, I think, to the board, because we have board members who do have a lot of business background and sometimes lack that maybe the understanding and a little bit more empathy towards people who are struggling. My job at a nonprofit is working with individuals who are in need. So I understand the need, I understand the concerns, I understand people losing their jobs and the struggles that they're facing. And I try to bring that to the board when we discuss items. At the board meetings, I try to do my homework, and then I ask questions. I try to encourage our board members to ask questions, and we've been doing, I believe, a lot more of that. I also serve on the NSSEO board as the District 211 representative, and NSSEO is the Special Needs District. It's a group of 8 districts that belong together. Our students, some of our students have some severe and profound needs that attend CURB. We have students with some behavioral issues that attend minor school. So I also serve on that board. But one of the things that's really important to me is putting students first and taking a look at what the needs are. So that is why I serve on the board. Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, Mr. Robert Lefebvre.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I've been a 50-year Palatine resident, married to a high school science director. We have 2 children, ages 19 and 17. Both attended the schools that I attended many years ago, right here in our community. I'm a 1985 graduate of Friend High School. I took advantage of many extracurricular activities, including band, basketball, and soccer. My high school experience provided a remarkable foundation for my life. I've been a District 211 board member since 2005. Prior to that, twice I ran and did not get elected. I had attended board meetings for approximately 8 years before becoming a board member. And now for the last 12 have served on the Board of Education. 6 years as board president, the last 2 years as the vice president. I want to be re-elected because I believe my experience, my background have a positive impact on our schools, ensuring our children and our community continue to benefit from the outstanding education District 211 provides. The investment you make in your child's education is what will stick with them for the rest of their life as they provide for themselves as well as all of you. I believe the district has taken a consistently stable approach that was focused on students, balancing requirements of high-quality education with the cost to the taxpayer. I need your vote to continue representing the interests of our community as a board member, responsible for influencing District 211 decisions about how to prepare our children for our future. Thank you.
I think that, sistered with the information presented in the program, should give you a pretty decent understanding of who these folks are, where they came from, their personal lives, their children. I think every one of them indicated their professional training, their education, occupations, and even some information about their family, which I greatly appreciate. Being raised out here and being raised by a pretty close-knit family, this is important to me as a leader of this union and as an employee of this district. We need people like the folks up here today that we can reach out and speak to and that are approachable. And from what I've heard here, it's reassuring to me as both, as I said, an employee and as a former graduate. And I don't know, it's just a happy teacher in this district, union guy as well, that these folks are willing to publicly state their intentions. With that said, let's move on to round one. Round one will allow each candidate 5 minutes. When there is 1 minute left, Ms. Anita Lee, Palatine High School Social Studies, Vice President of the local, will knock on the table. That will indicate to the candidate speaking they have 1 minute remaining, at which time they will then finish and we'll move on to the next candidate. The first topic is school management. Mrs. Forrest, would you like to begin?
Well, I've lived in this district for close to 20 years, so I'm very proud to be a District 211 resident. And I'm proud that my kids, get to go to one of the best high schools in the state of Illinois. Our district has 5 blue ribbon high schools and 2 excellent special education schools. And I think we have a group of teachers who are very dedicated and passionate about teaching our children and preparing them the quality skills that they need for the life beyond the high school. So I'm very proud of that. And I think the students in our district are doing very well, in terms of the graduation rates and also the standardized test score. So all those are higher than the state average. So I'm really proud of that. I actually have met with our superintendent, Dr. Cates, to discuss the district school management. And I think he will agree that, we had an excellent school district here. And I actually asked him what he thinks is the strength and the weakness of our school district. And I think I would agree with him that, our school district could maybe do more, like as far as, partnering with the local community college, to get more college credit when the students are still in high school. Or maybe we could work together to provide the best newest technology or equipment, make available to the students. So if elected, I will definitely strive for a positive working relationship with the administration. And I think together we'll create a safe and supportive environment and for our district and provide the best resource for our students' education.
Mrs. David, please.
Thank you. I agree with Jean. Like she said, D211 has a great reputation. It has great rankings. I mean, we attract a lot of families to live in our district, and I've heard from many newcomers that say they researched, they spoke with real estate agents, and, they choose where to plant their families based on the schools, and, we offer great schools. As far as the roles and expectations of a school board member, I just want to repeat that really is to represent the community's beliefs and values. And so I welcome your input and your opinion, and that's one of the things I would love to do on a more regular basis, ongoing, is to hear how parents feel, how community members feel, how businesses in the community feel, about living here in this area. So basically, as far as academic goals and targets, the one thing that I've been looking at is just at a glance the different schools that we have. And one of my concerns is they're very diverse and they're very unique. Palatine is different from Friend. Friend has a different makeup of students than Conant and Hoffman Estates, and as well as Schaumburg. And they each have, various makeups of students. They have different strengths in different areas. And I think, one of the slight improvements that could be made is meeting the specific needs and customized needs of the different student makeups that we have within our communities. Great reports on teacher retention rates, which I'm assuming that you guys are happy about teachers being here. It's in the 90% range, well over. Graduation rates are also in the well over the 90% range. One of the small areas of improvement that I can also see, which I feel like I've heard, we're doing more programs, is just, including an increase of students taking math and science classes. And, that's actually close to my heart because my daughter was a big math and science student. Those were some numbers where I thought we could see some improvement in. And I think we'll have to work together as a team in order to accomplish those goals. I mean, it's working as a team between the administrators, it's working as a team between teachers, and those two groups are probably the ones who have the hands-on experience on a daily basis with the students. But that's not to say that the community shouldn't have a voice in directing how that happens, and that's really truly the goal of the board. As far as other items of school management, one of the upcoming goals coming up is just really, the union contracts, and I really want to emphasize that all of the stakeholders should have a role in that conversation. Parents, teachers, administrators, taxpayers. It shouldn't just be one-sided, and that's one of the things that we need to all work together to have a win-win situation. It's not, obviously there's probably different priorities in each of those groups, but we all live here together and we all have a goal of having good schools, and that's one of the things that, I think that, we could, as a community, have more representation in that area. Really, looking at some of the other items, just technology, that's a big thing in just the world we live in. I think the board just recently passed the iPad one-to-one program, and I feel it's a great responsibility to have a tool like that in students' hands. My daughter was actually part of the pilot program, but I want to make sure and get feedback. And I have heard some parental feedback that, maybe there wasn't enough training, or maybe we could have had more guards on the initial iPads. But I did see that this district was listening to that advice, and they added more safeguards on the iPads themselves. So those are things that it's just an example of how we can all work together to make sure that that program is successful. So thank you very much.
If I might get just a minute, I'd like all 6 candidates to know that And I appreciate that, Mrs. David. Although this is a union-sponsored event, we'd like you to be as frank as possible with respect to collective bargaining and your views on the upcoming contract negotiations. I mean, we have very thick skin in education, and especially as teachers in this district as a whole. So we want you to be comfortable to say what you mean and mean what you say, and I appreciate that candor. Mr. Bonas, please.
Thank you. School management, lots of topics under school management. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go down the list here. There's 6 topics, and I'm going to touch on a couple of things that I think are important in each. So the role and expectation of a school board member. So when I look at myself as a school board member, and I'm sitting there and I'm being looked to vote on make big decisions and vote on a lot of things, what would you expect of me? Well, like I mentioned earlier, you have a right to expect that I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm going to have open dialogue in the meeting. You're going to know why I'm voting before I make the vote. You're going to understand a little bit of my logic behind the vote. And then you guys can decide, hey, you know, this guy's off his rocker, or hey, this is excellent. I mean, he really made a rational decision here that's in the best interest of all stakeholders. With regard to collective bargaining, it's a fact of life here in Elton. Regardless of how people feel, if you think we should become a right-to-work state or not, right now we have it, and we have unions, and it's really about working together to come up with a fair agreement that has all stakeholders in mind. And so that's the way I view it. School security, employee safety, and student rights. Well, we need a very safe environment in our schools. We don't want parents worried about something horrible happening to their kids because there isn't sufficient security. There aren't proper measures in place to know who's coming into a building and who should be there and who shouldn't be there during the school day. We need to have cooperative efforts with local law enforcement. We need to sensitize students to what the risks and the dangers of getting involved in drugs and getting involved in gangs are and where those things lead to. So there should be an active effort of avoidance and discouragement by, through information with high school students. Academic goals and targets. One of the things that I feel strongly about, and that's kind of a passion of mine, is that I think we need to have more trades and vocational training in the schools. I went to Lane Technical High School in the city, and I took 4 to 5 shop classes over the course of my time at that school. Now, I didn't decide to go into a trade. I didn't decide to go into vocation. I went to college. I took electrical engineering, very technical discipline, very demanding. But you know what? Not everyone is cut out for college. That's just a fact of life. We're not. And the bottom line is that you've got to account for those types of students. You can't put so much pressure on students that they feel if they don't go to college, they're a failure, right? We need people who are good with their hands, who are craftsmen. We need tool and die people. We need skilled labor in this country, and we have a shortage of it. And so I asked myself, can we be doing more there to meet some of the needs, not just in the local area, but across the nation, where we actually have a shortage of these types of people in the workplace. And there's a lot of good jobs available to these people, but we're not filling all the positions. So the other thing about this is that even if you don't go into a trade, it's something you carry with you for the rest of your life. I mean, I just did something in my house a few weeks ago that, hey, if I didn't have that electrical shop class, I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. Or if I'm hiring a guy to work on my house and he's going to do some plumbing or electrical work, it would sure help me if I could relate to that person somehow and understand what he's talking about to some degree, or at least know the basics. Or maybe I could handle some things on my own. Everyone's going to become a homeowner one day, and they're going to run across some basic things. So you learn a lot of practical skills there. Technology goals and targets. This is phenomenal. I see good and bad here, right? I see good because I see things like Schoology and Infinite Campus which are great tools that you've put in the hands of parents and students to aid communication, to facilitate work in the classroom. I've seen good and bad with the iPads. You know, the iPads are a tremendous educational tool, and I love them. But hey, you know, we need to have a program where we bring parents in who are not comfortable with this technology, are worried about it because they see their kids off in their room with their door closed for most of the evening, and all they're doing is they're doing homework on their iPad or they're surfing on their iPad. You know, we need to bring them in and help them understand the technology because, you know, you do have a technology gap with parents and the kids. And we have to help close that. We have to help make them more comfortable with technology. Have a hands-on session with them. Acquaint them with some of the features and functions, how they can help control the access. If they don't want their kids on Snapchat, show them how to keep Snapchat off of it or to restrict it. And involve the parents. I'm a real tech guy. I love doing it. If the school engaged me and said, hey, would you like to come in and help us work with some parents who are very apprehensive about this? I'd say, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'll sit down and I'll go through things with them and I help them out. I'll help them get a little more comfortable with things.
Mr. Bonas, that's fine.
That's the time?
Yes, sir.
I thought I was going to get a rap on the desk.
Let me tell you, you were on a roll, sir, but that's 5 minutes.
I'm excited, can't you tell? I want to get going right away.
I'll tell you what, I want you to come to my house. My son's on the computer a lot. Mr. Young, please.
Well, what are the roles and expectations of the school board member? Its primary role is to select and hire the superintendent for the school district. Primarily, a school board member is there to govern, not to manage. We're not trained to manage. We come from all different disciplines. I'm an architect. I didn't mention that before, but I utilize my skills toward buildings and facilities. So I think, in essence, everybody on the board brings something to the table, but we're not educators. We're not teachers. So we are to some degree, but we should leave that to the administrators and the teachers. In terms of school security and employee safety and student rights, our schools really monitor who comes in and out of the schools very carefully. I mean, even when I was on the board, I had to show my driver's license to prove I was a school board member to get into schools. So, and I was a couple times almost had to get down. Even though I told them I was a school board member, they didn't believe me. Which I was proud of because that showed that they monitor who was coming in and who was going out. And I think that's important for the safety of the teachers and our students. In terms of academic goals and targets, it's always good to look at, we want to try to get everybody to achieve a certain, the highest ACT possible. But not all students are going to be in that range. I mean, we have to look at, to me, test scores, ACTs, it's great for getting into college, but what is more important to me is what a student learns from day one to the last day of class. That progress can only be monitored by the teacher. And, they're going to tell you whether or not how a student progresses. Tests will only give you kind of a picture of that student the day he takes the test. If he takes the test and he's not feeling good, he's not going to do good on the test. But if a teacher can understand or see what the student is and what he can do to help that student progress and learn, that's the important thing. And I think that's the strength I feel our teachers have when they try to accomplish. They try to utilize the strengths of the students and try to develop the weaknesses so they become strengths. So I think, in essence, teachers are really, when you get down to it, they're the purpose that you have a school. They're the frontline battle. Because if our teachers aren't performing, the district isn't performing, and your kids aren't learning. So, I think it's definitely important to hire the best staff and have your best teachers working and have constant training for your teachers to understand how society changes, how ideas changes, how concept changes, so they can understand. what a student is doing. In terms of technology goals, targets, well, I was on the board when we bought in the iPads, and I thought it was a great tool. One of the things that the teacher was able to do was to be able to monitor each and every student with their iPad, because you could, see what each and every student was doing and what each and every student was writing. It wasn't like in the old days, if you kind of wanted to not let the teacher see you, you kind of like duck down and try to hide, and hoping the teacher wouldn't wouldn't ask you the question. With the iPads, that phase is kind of eliminated. Collective bargaining, I think it's important that a board member sits in on the collective bargaining so they can understand what's going on, so they can report back to the rest of the board members. It's important, I think it's important that there is a board member that sits on the negotiations. However, negotiations should be left up to the people that know how to negotiate, because I've seen in other districts where a board member tries to negotiate, they really don't know what they're doing. Strategic plans, I think it's important to have a strategic plan, and the strategic plan should change. It should be like a 5-year plan, and every year that plan should be modified, because today's world is constantly changing. I mean, it's like when you buy a TV today, 6 months, it's ancient, and if we don't keep up with technology, then your students aren't going to keep up with technology. So I think it's important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, the school board consists of 7 members, each with their own strengths and limitations. But put together, they impact the directions that the district takes and its outcomes. What I bring to the board, again, is a background in human services, working with individuals in need of various supports. I offer a humanistic understanding of how the board decisions impact the community. When presented with actions that require decisions, I ask myself the following questions. How does this impact and affect the students? What's the financial impact? What's the long-term result of the action? My next step is to ask clarifying questions of administrators and at the board meeting. Presentations and reports also add to my decision-making. A major decision that I supported was the development of the strategic plan this past year. The plan encouraged community input and was led by a community member facilitating team. A result of the plan included development of the value statements that will assist the district with its outlined priorities. The value statements include academic rigor, accountability, communication, compassion, dignity and respect, education and learning, efficiency, financial integrity, innovation, opportunity, safety, and wellness. These defining values should be guiding us as we go forward. As we look at what we have been doing for our district, our school security, we've changed over the years the offices, brought them forward to make our buildings more secure. Secure for the students, secure for the staff, and secure for the visitors. We've also worked, each of the schools has worked on keeping the students safe and working against bullying, because that's something that's really, I think, affects our students because of all the social media, because they're not having sometimes that communication with people. And it's just so easy to hide behind social media and to do the bullying. Each of our schools are working on the rights for all of our students and protecting them. The academic goals and targets. We offer dual credits for the students, working with Harper. We also encourage our students to take AP classes, because if a student has never had the opportunity of being in an AP class, they don't know what their full potential is. And that encouragement from the staff to give that a try, to work with those kids, to give them that opportunity. That could be the decision that may change their course of life. They may end up deciding to go to college. They may not. But it gives them the opportunity to experience something a little bit different. Raising that bar. And I think that that is the most important thing. Allowing our kids to achieve more and encouraging them. One of the things that we've talked about as a board at our board meetings in the past is making certain that at each of the schools, there's at least someone that the student knows and there's someone that the student knows cares about them. It could be the bus driver, it could be the cafeteria staff, it could be one of the maintenance individuals. There's got to be that connection, and I think that's something we really strive for. As far as the technology, the iPads have been working. There's still work to be done on it, and like anything else, you learn as you go along. As far as collective bargaining, yes, I agree that board members should be part of the collective bargaining team. And it would be up to the board to decide what role that individual or individuals take. And it could be sitting back and listening and then sharing with the board. College and career readiness is important. Our staff presents with differentiated teaching because our students are all different. They learn differently, whether they're visual, auditory, or experiential. So our staff works with our students. So I think our school management overall works together between the administration, the staff, the students, and the board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Mr. Lefebvre.
Thank you. The role of school board members: first, to connect to the community; second, articulate the purpose of the district; third, hold each other accountable; fourth, hire a superintendent; fifth, delegate authority to the superintendent to run the school district; and sixth, to evaluate the superintendent's performance. In 2005, when I was elected, the school district was not where we are today. We were under completely different leadership and had an entirely different culture. Our financial position was nothing like it is today. During my 12 years on the board, the district has had significant experienced staff retirements and strived to attract, train, and retain the most highly qualified people we can, because those people are what make the learning occur for the students. The people that we hire deliver the District 211 experience to each of our students and our entire school community. School management begins with the Board of Education. We are responsible for the culture in this district. We work through a governance model as a board, not as individuals. We operate as a team. I have seen firsthand 4 different superintendents, working with 3 of them, and I was a board member when we hired the past 2. It is through the community support, the board's vision, and the superintendent's operational decisions, and the people who work in our schools, that is the reason why District 211 is where it is today. Collective bargaining is always challenging. Everyone that participates in that process knows that we must be competitive, all of us. At the same time, we must provide a stable and sustainable learning environment for our students, because the clock does not stop while the negotiations go on, and we must continue moving the district forward. The district recently began the community engagement program, culminating in the development of a strategic plan. I participated in that process as a community member, listening to what people thought, what people experienced, and what people wanted. This process was overwhelmingly positive and engaged everyone who wished to participate. All of the feedback was positive, highlighting strengths, identifying challenges, and opportunities for improvement. We are in an increasingly diverse community, and we continue to face uncertain financial challenges. The superintendent works to maintain the district's competitiveness and keep us in a financial position so we are prepared for any threat to the quality of programs our community desires. The position we are in today is substantially better than when I was elected in 2005. I I am willing to continue my work as a board member to keep it that way.
Okay, we've run through one topic. You want to stand up right now and stretch a little bit? That's fine. This is what we do with the kids to try and keep them on task. And in my experience as a teacher, adults tend to be worse. Teachers tend to be the worst of the adult group. Please feel free to do so. In summary, putting on my teacher hat, I think the one thing that we can, that runs through all 6 candidates' comments is the teachers are doing a great job. That was my attempt at lightheartedness in this event. Seriously though, thank you all 6 for your kind words on behalf of the staff at 211. All right, everybody all ready to go again? This time I'd like to start with Mr. Lefebvre to speak to school finance, just to create some balance here so they're not always responding, and these folks over here can respond to some of the comments made by the folks to my right. You ready, Mr. Lefebvre?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The most fascinating part of the school district finance. When I left District 211, I continued my education, earning a bachelor's degree in accounting, a master of business administration, and a master of taxation. I earned professional designations as a certified public accountant, a certified financial planner, and a registered investment advisor. For the last 25 years, I've managed a public accounting practice in Palatine. My strong community and educational background, as well as my business experience, remain an outstanding skill set for a board member. Property tax relief. We would all love property tax relief. The reality is the school district works in an environment comprised by legislation and rules imposed upon us by people who are not from this community. That includes the legislature down in Springfield, it includes the Cook County Assessor, and it includes our local municipalities. Mistakes in school district finance are almost unrecoverable. Prior to 2005, this district was facing very, very challenging times. And on the chopping block were programs that the school community had become accustomed to for many, many years. The community decided to pass a referendum to put the school district in a different place, to point it in a better direction. A direction that should not be changed ever again, because we are headed in the right direction. As a result of actions taken by the Board of Education and ideas proposed by the leadership of our school district, we have been able to decrease our property tax levies by roughly $3 million a year for roughly the last 10 years. Almost unprecedented in any school district anywhere in the state of Illinois. If you are not happy with the state of Illinois' financial situation, District 211 is on the exact opposite end of that spectrum. That relief has been beneficial, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it and someone holds up their property tax bill. But the reality is, municipalities are implementing TIF districts. The Cook County Assessor changes assessed property tax valuations, and legislation from Springfield threatens school district revenues. It is important to continue to provide a stable and sustainable financial base so that we can provide the best education possible for all of our students forever. Thank you.
I'm really glad Mr. Lefebvre went first there. This is our CPA person. The Board of Education, we've been able to abate our working cash, our money, we've been able to abate over $33 million over the last number of years. This has helped with decreasing the tax amount. In 2015, we kept the levy flat. In 2016, it was a 0.3 increase. And when we could have ended up taxing a little bit more, which could have been about 2.8% for that same period of time. The Board of Education has also implemented a plan to become debt-free with the next school year, because we'll be eliminating the debt service. And District 211 has had the debt service for many, many years, so this will be the first time without the debt. So I think it's important that we have the current monies, we've got monies in reserve to work on the next 5 years, because we're not going to have that debt. The board has always been mindful of the budgeting efficiencies. Over the last few years alone, we've reduced about 2.5 million in different reductions that we've been able to do. And again, that's the direction that we've given to our superintendent to work on that. Some of that reduction has been in staff, some of the because of retirement, some of it has been because of purchasing efficiencies through cooperatives and restructuring some service contracts. Some of it has been restructuring our summer school and closing one building each year to be able to do that, so we don't have everything open at the same time. Also restructuring the district's health insurance plan, changing to the HMO to Blue Advantage. There have been a number of efficiencies that we've tried to implement. One of the things that I think was very helpful for the district was the Higgins Education Center. We were able to take our special needs students for the adult transition program, take them out of the trailers that we had behind Hoffman Estates High School and put them into the building. It was Barrington Orthopedic. The building became available. We were able to rent it for 1 year and then purchase it. We've also been able to put one of our alternative schools into that building, taking them away from a building that we were renting and putting them into our building. So those were some of the things that we took a look at, how we can best control some of our finances. I think as we move forward, we're very conscious of the expenses. We're very conscious of the limited revenue that we have. And as Mr. Lefebvre said, TIF districts are a big part of what happens to, whether it's the school, whether it's the library or park district, that all affects us. And if we want to keep the quality of the education that we have, unfortunately taxes are the way that it has to be, because we're really not getting a lot of money coming from the state. Over the last couple of years with our levy, from 2013 through 2016, our total percentage increase has been 3.5%. The allowable would have been 7.8%. So we did keep it at basically half of what we could have increased it. So I think we are working to keep it financially sound. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nicholas. Mr. Young.
School financing, it's a very interesting part of being a board member. It generally takes two years to really kind of understand what's going on, because there's different funds that you can draw upon and that you utilize for work. You have the capital fund, you have this fund, that fund, and understanding each fund can be a problem. But one of the problems that I always thought in terms of school financing was the amount of money that we got from the state of Illinois. In terms of the state of Illinois ranks in the bottom 5 in the amount of money that they give to the school districts. So in other words, whatever other money that we need to get the school district operating generally comes out of property taxes. I think we all would love to see our property tax go and get the quality of education to stay up, but that's not going to happen. However, we can try to control our costs and keep everything to a minimum. Analyze our programs, see what programs can be eliminated, what new programs can be installed, and try to keep within our budget and keep within means. Another issue that we have is on the TIS. We also have unfunded mandates by the state of Illinois, and that's where the state of Illinois tells the school district, you have to do this. And then the school district will reply, where's the money? And the state comes back and says, that's your problem. And it is. So the state mandates these things, the school district has to comply, and where does that money come from? It comes from our operating, fund. So it makes things a little difficult. The other thing that has been a problem are commercial properties that protest their taxes. And we end up losing, what's the term? The PTAPs, sorry. When that comes about, we end up having to give that money sometimes 2 or 3 years back. In other words, we could be actually losing money to 2014 this year or 2015, and that money is not recoverable. So I think there's a lot of other things that really hurt our school district in terms of financing, and I think it makes it to some degree difficult to try to plan your school year. However, I think our staff here, as I know in the past, has planned for that. They allow a certain amount of money for that, and hope that that doesn't come about. But we've also, in essence, gotten together with a couple other school districts to fight some of these PTAPs and hopefully win, not have to give back the money. School financing is it's a very difficult and it's very hard, and budgeting is probably is difficult from year to year. But I think it's important that we have a plan that we can plan for each year financially. And in the strategic plan, have this 5-year plan, you can generally come out with some sort of idea what is going to be needed and what is going to have to be spent each year forthcoming. And I think it's important that the school district plans for that and realizes all the other problems that could occur. Other than that, I think, if you really want to try to help the school district, I think you should talk to your state legislature, which I know we have one back, about school funding. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up was the fact that when they bought up the state lottery, they decided that school funding was going to come out of the state lottery. And I think everybody, as well as myself, thought, okay, we're going to get more money. All they did was take money that was allotted in budget and just replace it with lottery money. They didn't increase the budget. They didn't do anything to help us. So I think at that point, there's some stuff that needs to be done by the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Bonas, would you like to go first?
So, as a slate of non-incumbents, we've been cautious about promising precise courses of action without yet having all pertinent facts in front of us, without yet fully understanding how all relevant law, policy, and commitments or contracts impact the limits of what we can do as board members. What we do know is that the district is on very firm financial footing, has reserves well above its guidelines. And I think that's notable because many of the precautions that they were talking about here are factored into the guidelines that are established, yet we're well above those guidelines. Has reserves well above its guidelines and owns a 60-acre vacant piece of property in a prime Schaumburg location. The property has just been sitting there, costing the taxpayers money for over 20 years. Simply by applying a portion of the reserves and coming up with a revenue-positive solution for the property, it seems very likely we would be able to reduce the D211 portion of residents' property taxes without sacrificing the quality of education provided. By optimizing the value obtained from district-owned assets and encouraging efficient and prioritized use of funds, we would also expect to uncover more ways to reduce costs. Some examples include cutting or avoiding unnecessary projects, maintaining reasonable staff-to-student ratios, and considering new systems and technologies that can save money. Upcoming teacher and support staff contract negotiations will play a big role in district finances over the next several years. I would like to see board member participation in these negotiations, representing our taxpayers. Furthermore, these contracts should be published to district residents and public hearings held to receive feedback prior to the Board of Education voting on them. So we need that transparency. So when I talk about projects, what are some of the types of things what are some of the types of things I'm alluding to? Well, you know, we just had a multi-million-dollar effort where we went through each one of the schools and totally revitalized all of the swimming pools. Was that the best use of your taxpayer dollars? Do you guys all feel that was? I don't know. Ask yourself the question.
Not the question and answer segment.
Okay.
Please refrain from responding.
You know, ask yourself that question. Break it down. Ask your current board members why they did that. Have them explain themselves. Ask them if they explained themselves in the board meeting before they voted on it. Okay? So if I had to wrap it up, I think that the goal that I'm talking about of lowering the D211 portion of our property taxes is very achievable. And that's one of the things I'm going to work toward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonas. I don't mean to be a taskmaster, but I don't want to turn this into a State of the Union address where everybody's standing and clapping and we don't get out of here until 11 o'clock at night. So please, we'll have more than enough time. I appreciate your excitement, though, with that topic, Mr. Bonas. Mrs. David, please.
So I've been listening to the incumbents who do have a lot of experience, who do have, you know, several of them have multiple terms serving on the board. And that's one of the, I think, challenges that we'll have as a newer slate is to learn all the different programs that state legislature provides as well as federal funding provides. But one of the things that, of course, and someone brought up that what I look on a day-to-day basis is my own property taxes. And I've heard, yes, there's been a $33 million debt levy since 2007. But when I look at the actual percentages, the real dollars of what my individual taxes are paid to D211, in 2011 it was 2.48%, in 2015 it was 3.30%. I mean, that's a 33% increase. So that's something I've been looking at. I fight my taxes every year. One year I win, 1 year I don't, it gets reassessed. I mean, in general though, I feel like property taxes are going up, yet my home value is not. And so we're feeling the crunch here. I'm feeling the crunch, and so that's one of the things that I've been looking into is, you know, how is the board basically managing their finances? And as Mr. Bonas alluded to, there's a board policy, and I think maybe that it's been a philosophy that, yes, we want a stronger financial position, so we've been increasing and adding things slowly, and you know, I don't think I was even aware of it, you know, to be honest, in the last 5 years of exactly what was happening, but as we all looked into it, I mean, the board policy states that we need to have a 33% reserve of next year's expenditures. What we're currently at is over 50%. That's close to $50 million sitting there. And it's not benefiting the kids because it's sitting in bank accounts earning definitely less than 1%. Everyone knows that rates are not where they've been at in past years. And so, you know, is that the proper use of taxpayer dollars? That's the question I ask you guys. You know, Ralph also mentioned the 2 parcels of land, and, you know, I was sitting in the board meeting listening to the fact that they sent an open-ended survey and there was 1,400 individual responses, which is great. But what do you do with that? I mean, the responses were all over the board, and I think we as a slate do have an opinion that we need to look at it carefully. I mean, originally that land was deemed to be used for a new school, but really our school enrollment's been flat or it's been slowly decreasing, so now what do we do with that? And we want to make sure we're using the best taxpayer dollars as well as the best resource for District 211. So we'll have to look at that carefully. I mean, but generally speaking, we'd like to see a good resource or a good use of that property. I mean, maybe it could be divvied out, partial use for children at school, but partially used to generate income. Those are things that we'd like to take a critical eye at. As far as getting community feedback, I think that's very important. Maybe it would have been easier to do a multiple choice one to get more consistent answers versus open-ended questions, but I mean, that's besides the fact. But I think it's in the strategic plan to, have a specific written plan to do what to do with that property in the next 2 years. So that's something that we want to have a voice in, and that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. David. Mrs. Forrest?
I definitely agree with what Ralph and Kate just said about, the being physically responsible, as a board member. Because if you were to ask me what are the top 3 priorities for being a board member, I would say number 1 is education, number 2 would be the physical responsibility. So that's definitely, that's one of the main thing, as a board member. So definitely I resonate with what Kate just said. I didn't bring my property tax bill tonight, but it's the same thing. I've seen my own property tax gone up, I would say 40% probably in the last 5 years. And I talked to my neighbors, my friends, and they all been, seeing the same thing. After I started, running for the board office, I've been walking door to door and talking to many constituents. And as soon as I mentioned, the property tax, I think many people will say, yeah, oh yeah, my property tax been gone up so much. And then I will tell them, do you know that, the enrollment in the district actually had gone down, and I guess many people don't know that. And then I will tell them, I look at the board's financial statement, and I think Ralph and Kay mentioned that the board really has strong financial position, but then they are sitting on 135 million of cash reserve, which is way more than what the board policy called for. And I understand they try to get a high rating from the state, but even that's way more than what they needed. So that tells me that they probably overestimate the expense in the past and would be overtaxed. So I think that the board could do better, managing the finance. And so I think that's where, I feel like with my background and experience, I could, help out. So I also discussed with the Superintendent, Dr. Cates, about the financial management for our district. So if elected, I definitely would like to, work together with the administration and the staff members to, have a better or sound management, financial management. I guess our position is we feel like we could freeze or lower the property tax without sacrificing the quality of the education. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize all 6 candidates and their commitment to not only the community, but to fiscal responsibility. I think that's fair, that we can find a common ground that runs among all 6 of them. And I think that's critically important to why we're here tonight. Being a social studies teacher and a guy who believes in democracy and the civic responsibility that we all have, I think as we start to formulate opinions as to who to vote for on April 4th for these 3 positions, that we think about what's being said, and we find a common ground in all 6, instead of focusing on maybe some of the more negative aspects that we believe exist in all 6 or in any one of these candidates. So I want to thank all 6 for their candid and frank remarks. Once again, we have a few minutes. If you'd like to stand up, stretch, shake, the restrooms are right out this door to your right. We'll take a couple of minutes. We are going to shorten the community engagement commentary to 3 minutes per candidate. I asked both sides and they were in favor of that so we can get to a question and answer segment quicker. So let's meet back here in about a minute or two. We'll start again a little after 8:52. Seem to have misplaced 2 candidates. I know. So I made reference prior to us breaking up here for a little break. We're going to reduce the community engagement portion commentary regarding community engagement to 3 minutes per candidate, which will then allow us to get to the Q&A segment a little quicker. So Mrs. Lee will be knocking at 2 minutes. And once everybody has had an opportunity to share their feelings and their comments, we will have 2 microphones in the audience. And again, for those that came in late, the folks with the microphone will maintain possession of the microphone. They will hold it up so you are able to ask your question into the microphone. It seems that some of the staff in the room have already collected signatures. So once we go to round 2, the question and answer segment, if you wrote your name on the sign-in sheet, I would ask that you please look for the person with the clipboard to which you signed, and you should have printed your name, your address, and a contact information, whether it be an email or a telephone number. We will call folks up. Folks will be at the microphone. We will allow them to ask the questions. Again, the questions will be presented in a respectful manner of all of the candidates up here. We're going to try and create some balance. I spoke to both sides. If a question is asked of the slate on my left, it will then, or it may be then made available to the 3 independent candidates on my right. To be clear, these 3 folks are not running as a slate. So that seems to be the agreeable process for the question and answer segment among the 6 candidates. Are there any questions of me? Okay. We start with Mr. Lefebvre. We started with you last, right? So Mrs. Forrest, I believe it's your turn to speak to community engagement. 3 minutes.
Okay, as I understand it, last year the school board worked together with the administration, started this, I think 5-month-long community engagement project. So the goal was to collect the information from the community and on various issues, and then the information was used to put together a strategic plan. So I definitely think that, I applauded the effort. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. Okay. So as a school board, I would say that they should represent the community's value and beliefs. And I feel like this project, that's what they should be doing all along. Okay, so to engage the community, to get the feedback. If elected, I would continue to engage the community, and I will definitely promote the open dialogue and debate during the public meeting, and will, communicate the significant policies and issues and any changes with the community in a timely and a transparent way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Forrest. Mrs. David, 3 minutes, please.
So yes, the community engagement project, as Jean mentioned, it was a 5-month-long process. I think, quite a big budget was attached to it. It tried to reach all the stakeholders. I agree with Jean. I applaud the efforts of making such a huge project putting it together, the planning of it, and I think it did involve quite a few people, community members, volunteers, teachers, administration, and no one was necessarily paid to do it, so that's a great effort indeed to take on. One of the things that I would like to do as a board member is do that more often. Get an ongoing process going for getting feedback all along, not just for a 5-year plan. We would need to hear back from our parents. We need to hear back from our students and our teachers on an ongoing basis. We could have taken an approach to do smaller surveys, ongoing, maybe at less cost. Those are just some of the thoughts that I had when I took a look at the program. I also want to be responsive to the emails that our constituents, our students, and our parents send to us board members. And, I've seen in some cases where where a response wasn't provided. And so that's one of the commitments that I would make, is to try to respond to, each email that's provided to us as a board member from the community. One of the things I'm interested in is I have some questions now that we have that community engagement and presentation, which is available for all of you guys to go online to the board website. You can take a look at it yourselves. But what are some of the follow-up that's going to be coming up? Now that we've spent this money, we've gotten this feedback, what's going to be done? What are the metrics that we're going to use to make sure those goals are being met? I mean, those are just some of the questions I would have if I became elected to the board. Definitely just, if I haven't repeated myself enough, really, our school board is there to represent the beliefs and the values of our community, and so anything I could do to understand what your beliefs and values are, I welcome that opportunity.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Bonet, 3 minutes, please.
Great. So, community engagement, a lot of people up here have reflected on the specific effort that the board took over this course of time. When I look at community engagement, I see it as there's all sorts of points of engagement. It can be a parent-teacher meeting. It can be a coach talking to a parent. It can be somebody coming to the Board of Education and getting up during the community, the time that's allotted for people in the community to speak out or give an opinion on something. So community engagement isn't as much about just one focused effort. While I feel there's a place for that, and it can draw attention to it, and you can communicate to people and let them know, hey, we're going to have this special time. I think the most valuable communication that occurs is when there's something happening, there's something that's bringing it about, whether it's a parent not being happy about something, whether it's a parent being ecstatic about something, whether it's a parent visiting the school and noticing something that concerns them and having a question, whether it's a new policy that got put in place and there's a group of people who are trying to get their voice heard. So what sorts of mechanisms are we putting in place to facilitate that? How are we working with teachers and administrators at the school level to make sure that we're collecting their input, that if a teacher comes to a department head or comes to a principal or something and says, hey, I've had five parents come and talk to me about this, and this is an issue. How are we collecting that input? Are those channels of communication open? Are they flowing? I mean, do students and faculty feel comfortable, coming and talking to administrators? We have to make sure that's clear. With regard to the Board of Education, I think it's a mixed bag, right? Because the board doc, when I'm going to a board meeting and I'm looking at their board docs online, I think that's a great system. But just very recently, they passed a rule to videotape and put the sessions online. Well, why did it take that long? I mean, that's something we should have been doing for a long time, and we haven't been doing it. At the school level, you've got Infinite Campus, which is great. It's a great communication tool, and it's a great way to keep parents informed. But then again, probably the most egregious communication shortfall that's happened in the last 4 years is when they open restrooms to students of the opposite sex, and the parents, it wasn't communicated to the parents. They didn't know anything about it. I've been living in the district for I don't know how many years. I didn't know anything about it until many, many, many months after this had occurred. That's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bones. Mr. Young?
I think the role of the community is quite important to the schools, as well as the school's role to the community is important. I think one of the things I always get amazed at is when I go to a Friday night football game and I see a lot of the parents there and a lot of the fans, and I see a lot of the students. And one thing that amazes me is the number of students that we get involved in these activities. You as a parent, you as part of the community need to see what's going on in the schools too. You need to come out to these games, come out to these activities. We've got some great lesbians out there that put on some great plays. And I think you can then see the benefit that you're getting out of the school district. One of the things I do is when I go to these events, I look at the interaction between our students and our teachers. I judge them, and I want to see that our students are learning something in terms of responsibility, in terms of citizenship, in terms of respect, and I also feel that our teachers are doing the same thing to them. I think in terms of this community engagement meeting, I think it's been a great thing, it's been a great tool. We need to do more of that. We need to have meetings for a lot of the critical topics that we feel would be necessary for the community to understand. And when I mean community, I mean everybody. You know, not just the parents, but all your taxpayers. You need to come out, you need to see what's going on and understand where your tax dollars are going and whether or not you feel the tax dollars are being used in a worthwhile basis. I think the vision for this district is always to push the students to their limits. Make sure that they achieve the best that they can achieve, so that when they leave high schools, they can make their decisions based on the things that they've experienced here and what they've learned here, and hopefully they'll become good, useful citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mrs. Klinkouli, 3 minutes.
I agree with the community engagement takes a lot of different forms. It could be the student talking to the teacher, discussing their grade. It could be the administrator and the staff members. It could be the superintendent with his administrative team. It could be the community members coming to our board meetings. I think that's just all part of it. When members come before the board, I listen to them, and I think that's important. I think our board does listen to them because they have a concern, and we validate the concern. We may not agree, but we validate that there is a concern. So that's part of the community engagement. I think one of the things that we have to be cautious about is what's the real role of a board member. If a parent has a concern about a teacher or a grade, something that their child is involved in, one of the questions that I will ask that person is, have you talked to the teacher? And if they say no, that's where I encourage them to go to, because I cannot take on that responsibility. That's not my job as a board member. If the teacher and the parent cannot, maybe come with a resolution, the suggestion is you need to talk with the principal. Maybe there needs to be a meeting. And from those kind of discussions and situations that occurs, things change. It might be something positive that happens, but I think that's part of the community engagement, of being able to have that discussion. And it really is the responsibility of the parent to work with the school. And if you're not able to work with the principal of the school, then talk to the superintendent, because there are a number of different avenues. In regards to the 60 acres, I think we had a tremendous amount of information that came from the community. And if we would have limited the questions and not had them as open-ended questions, we would not have gotten the tremendous response that we did. We're looking to review it in March. We were looking at a rubric. We want to see what's going to be the best for the district and the best for the students. So I think as far as community engagement, we do a number of things. We take a look at what's important. The videotaping, of our board meetings. I think that'll be tremendous because we have some excellent presentations. And the community members who cannot be at the board meetings will be able to view those. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lefebvre, 3 minutes, please.
Sure, thank you. The community engagement meetings brought forth a lot of great feedback, and overwhelmingly, it indicated that people were happy with what the district has been doing. Yes, everyone wanted us to be able to do the same things and spend less money. I would love that too. But nobody identified programs that they didn't want available for their students. Nothing was identified to cut or eliminate or get rid of. In fact, people proposed the district find improved ways to deal with our increasingly diverse population. Improved ways to teach students the softer skills, the communication skills, the social skills. The district's community engagement meeting was a culmination of a long process. But community is engaged continuously throughout our school district. Each school, principals have principal and parent meetings. I know because my wife and I have attended those. When we attend, there are 4 or 5 other parents there. Our schools have 2,000 plus students in them. Each one. And the principal meetings that happen monthly have 4 or 5 parents at them. Maybe some have more. I only have experience with the ones that I've attended. But yes, community engagement is an ongoing process. I fully support that. Just like I like all of my clients to feel like they are my only client all the time, all of our students and all of our parents, we would love for them to feel like they are our only student all the time. Thank you.
Okay. With that said, Mr. Walzer, we have a mic. I'll be handing you this microphone, Mr. Scully, Mr. Krantz. Okay. If you signed your name to a petition, would you please assemble by the gentleman that you signed with, and we will go ahead and begin the Q&A segment.
We're going to go in order of the sign up. So the first person that signed up starts with Joseph.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. Young. Mr. Young, records show that you have paid the real estate taxes on your home at 300 Roberts Road, and you sold the house to Philip Moy in 2002. And then in 2008, Moy sold the house to another person by the name Ronnie Young, the same last name as you have. But in all these years, you still continue to live in this house. Is it true?
Yes, that's very true. So the question is, what is the question?
Okay.
The taxes have been paid on it, that's your question.
Okay. From year 2008 to 2010, IRS has placed liens on your wife, Mary. Is it true?
Does this have to do anything with the school board?
Hold on. What does this have to do? The question is this allowed? No. You need to sit down, sir. We are not going to that, sir. You need to sit down before you're asked. Mr. Officer Donahue. Okay. These questions need to be directed at what was stated tonight. We will not make personal attacks on these 6 candidates. I will not have to say that again. Excuse me.
I got kind of confused when it was stated earlier about, it sounded like a board member with a negotiating table for teachers' contracts. That confused me because I was wondering if only a board member there who is actually negotiating these teachers' contracts. And the other thing, I want to know, who do you think is best to be negotiating a teacher's contract? And then also,
Would you like to direct this question at?
just in general, because I got confused as to who actually is responsible for negotiating a teacher's contract, because the way I interpreted it, it was that administration is in negotiating the teacher's contract, and I see that as a huge conflict of interest.
Somebody like to answer that? Mrs. Lindquist?
Currently, District 211 does not have board members sitting as part of the negotiation. What happens is the board in closed session will review the contract, talk about it, and what some of the negotiating points would be. We have an attorney, we have administrators that are part of it, and then they meet with the representatives from the teachers union. One of the, what I would like to see is that a board member, or maybe two board members, be part of the negotiation. Then it could take various roles. It could be sitting back and watching. It could be whatever the board decides that role of the board member or members should be. But currently, there are no board members actually in the negotiation itself.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, we're going to have one of these three also respond. Mr. Mullins, respond.
Yeah, I mean, we also agree that there should be board members present in the negotiations. You know, the exact mechanics of how that would work would need to be worked out, and we have to discuss that as a board and, you know, make sure that we're all in agreement on that. But I do think it's very valuable. You know, I could see a picture where there's a negotiation going on, something's said in the meeting, a board member has a concern, and at the next break, they're able to step out and talk with their team and say, hey, look, did you notice this? Did you hear this? I really have a concern with the direction that that's going in. How can we pull this back? What are your thoughts on it? And there could be dialogue like that occurs. That's currently, you know, not happening. And it's happening, and that would happen in real time, which would be valuable to a negotiation. Thank you.
My name is Ramana and I attend Women High School, and this question is addressed to the panel. What will you do to make LGBT plus students and other minorities feel like their rights are being respected?
Anybody mind first?
Was the question directed to us? Sorry, I didn't.
Why don't we do this? Both sides want to answer the question. Who answered the, Mrs. Lindquist started, the question goes to you first, and then it'll jump back to this side. Why don't we do it?
Yeah, could you repeat the question because the mic was kind of far.
This question is addressed to the panel. What will you do to make LGBT plus students and other minorities feel like their rights are being violated or being respected?
I think the school, definitely, you know, the school board is watching out for all the students. Okay, so it's not just the LGBT students, and I think we have a policy against the bullying. So definitely, you know, we want to make sure the minority students will not get bullied. If that happens, definitely, you know, there will be consequences. As a school board, you know, and as a parent, I definitely feel passionate for, you know, the LGBT students, or you so-called the minority students, and we'll do everything we can to feel, you know, they feel safe and they be respected, and I think we represent all the students, not just the minority, or, you know, it's for everyone.
Over here, would someone like to field?
Sure, thank you. I don't think we need to make any rules about how human beings need to treat other human beings. All of our students need to be treated equally with caring and compassion, and specific characteristics about individuals are not relevant to how we treat human beings, all human beings.
Do we need shutting this thing down. So, no applause? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Shelley.
My question is addressed to all the candidates. We know that last year the board caved into federal pressure on an important issue despite strong opposition by the majority of district parents who spoke out. That seriously damaged this board's credibility in the community. So if you are elected a board member, how are you going to play a positive role in gaining back the trust of the community and ensuring that communication with parents are honest and transparent on important issues, especially in situations where there's a controversial issue, rather than just making decisions behind closed doors without parent input?
I believe you have it first, this side, someone.
I think it depends on what the issue is and what information needs to be shared. I believe that our superintendent has open communication. If someone has a concern, they certainly can call them. Each of our principals are available. I think it depends on the issue. If you're talking about an LGBT student, there's anonymity. That student doesn't want to be singled out, and nor should they be. So I guess I'm not really certain what you're asking for, other than if there's a situation, something happens, in regards to the safety of all of our students, if we have a lockdown, if we have something else, that information is shared right away through the different forms of communication.
I think I understood the question to mean there was a specific situation in mind that happened when the U.S. Department of Education came in and tried to mandate how school policy should be run, and that's something that I have continually been trying to stress, that really the school board should represent the beliefs and the values of the community. And I think the question was asked about, what about transparency and the fact that policy was made without telling the parents of the students about this, in particular, this bathroom policy. And so in my own instance, I was told by my own daughter about what happened. This is like an all-district policy, but nothing was communicated to the parents. So I think that's gregarious and a mistake that, we had to find out just by our students telling us about this. This is, happening to many students and not just one student. And really, the other question was, can you repeat the last part of your question?
I think the board has been making efforts, like in the communication, you have the community engagement section that you talked about.
Yes.
That's part of it. What I was asking is because of what happened over the last 2 years, they did lose a lot of trust.
Correct.
From me personally,
yes.
And I wonder how the board is going to gain that back.
Well, our particular slate has, we've been vocal about what our policy is going to be, and that we would like to protect the rights and well-being, privacy rights of all children, and to make special accommodations for children who have special needs or special requests, and not necessarily having to impinge upon the privacy rights of, other students in the matter. And I think that's really clear on our website, that's clear in our literature. We don't make any, as far as the specifics go, that's something, of course, that once we're on the board, we will have to work out, but our principle is clear.
Hi, I'm Tracy, and I live in Schaumburg. I'm hearing a lot of we, and I agree with what they already said, statements from the slate, so this question is directed at you. I'm also hearing a lot about the values and beliefs of the community. You don't represent my values, those of my friends or those of my neighbors. How exactly will this groupthink mentality that you represent, as well as your lack of experience, adequately represent the diverse views of this community and varied needs of kids?
Well, first of all, I think I do know a thing or two about diversity. I grew up in the city. I was just one block north. I'd be in Little Poland, a couple of blocks south. I was in Mexico. I was a heavy Mexican, Puerto Rican. I went to a school that had people from all walks of life in it. I grew up colorblind. I've got black friends, brown friends, Anglo-American friends. Any which way you cut it. I've had two bosses over my career who were homosexuals, and they were great people, and they're very talented people, and I learned a lot of things from them. In terms of being able to deal with diversity and understand what diversity is about, I'm a little offended by the presumption there. Our policy.
To clarify, I was really asking about the groupthink mentality of the slate. I wasn't questioning your personal experience with a diverse group of people.
Yeah, I think, it's real simple, right? I think that the community has made it very clear. I was at the public hearings, and it was easily over 60%, maybe even more, of the people who got up and spoke were against the school's decision. Or the district's decision. The district decided to go and make that decision anyways. You're not representing the community values and beliefs when you go directly against a large majority of your constituency and the people that you're supposed to be there and represent. We're not proposing a policy that would be discriminatory towards people dealing with gender identity issues. We're proposing a policy that would provide reasonable accommodation and would provide for their needs without sacrificing the dignity and the privacy of a majority of the other students. So we feel we're on very sound footing on this. We feel this is a winning issue, and we feel we are representing the community in terms of the position that we have. And we're being compassionate while we're doing it at the same time.
Thank you. Well, what we've done here is trying to limit the responses to about 2 minutes to allow more people to ask questions. So thank you very much for doing that. Mr. Bonance, where are we? Are we over here?
Hello, my name is John Parker, and I would like to thank the incumbents for the $30 million that they said that they've abated or rebated back to the community. We really appreciate that. We really do. That's the right question. That's the right tax relief. Yes, it's coming. It's coming. My comment is, during that same time period, this district took $2,857,000,000.
It was the question. This is not a place for you to pontificate. Questions for the 6 candidates are the only level.
Your $35 million abatement or rebate amounts to 0.014 cents on the dollar. Is that something you want to brag about? It's not a question, it was a comment in response.
Is that something you'd like to discuss, or?
I'll comment on that.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Best investment you'll ever make. Investment in education, your students' future, and your future.
Scott Lilly, I have graduated Shelburne High School, and I have a son in junior high right now in Shelburne High School. I got the questions. One is, what is your position on current legislation that is being proposed to some bills in House bills when it comes to what we call mandate, and also what is your view on what it means to be a full education experience for our students here in District 2 level?
Okay, the question is related to unfunded mandates and the holistic educational experience in our schools. I believe it's this side.
So unfunded mandates, when the state legislation brings down rules or things that we have to follow, we don't have a whole lot of control in saying anything. We have to do the best that we can with whatever they've asked us to do. And I'm not saying things are fair or not fair about whether or not mandates are funded or unfunded, but I think each local school district has to deal with that problem. So I'm not exactly sure, how to address that, other than we'll have to work through those issues. Your question about, the second part was about
What is the
holistic.
holistic educational experience for all our students?
Well, even for my own children who are in high school, I think it's best if, obviously, the base level is you're going through the classes that you need to go to and you have to attend the hours that you need to attend, but our district has so many resources in the music department, drama, other academic clubs, language clubs. Really, I would encourage every student to get involved as much as possible to have that holistic experience. But that can't be mandated necessarily. That's really the choice of the students, and that's the choice of the parents to encourage them to get involved. And if they're not doing that, then really it's a shame on them for not getting involved. I mean, it's really a disservice to them. But, the school and the administration can do as much to promote and communicate what's available.
In terms of unfunded mandates, there's really nothing you can do about it, because you'll get penalties from the state for not doing it. Usually the mandates that the state requires is generally for the overall safety of the students anyway. So, I mean, unfunded mandates, you can't do anything about it. It's just that whatever money is utilized to fund the unfunded mandates will have to come out of some other program or have to come out of something else in the budget. As far as the holistic educational process in the schools, I think it's important that the schools have a lot of different programs. I mean, they have a lot of different clubs. We have exchange programs with high schools in other countries. In fact, I was one to push for us to have an exchange program for a school in China. But you got to have these opportunities for these kids. Otherwise, when they approach college, they're going to have a limited concept of what they want to do. I'm also product of Chicago Public Schools. I actually went to the technical high school on the south side of the city, not the north side. Ralph.
You're forgiven.
But I mean, basically when I came out of there, I only knew like 3 or 4 different curriculums that I could have done. And if we had the programs that we had at the D8 to 11 schools, I don't know if I would have been an architect. So I think, in essence, the more opportunities that you can give the students, the more programs that the student can have, the better it is. And I know this too, that if a student wants to see something done, they can talk to their teachers. And I know some teachers that have established different clubs, different programs, or attempted to increase that ability for the student to expand their horizon. Okay.
My question's for the incumbents. It's my understanding there's already a 3-year plan for the vacant property in Schaumburg, and options are being considered, but what do you think is the best use of this land for the school system while being mindful of the taxpayers?
I can give you my personal opinion in regards to it, and I'm looking forward to having more information at our March meeting of some of the categories that were recommended. But the property was purchased with the intent of doing something for students. So I am leaning towards seeing what were some of those suggestions where it would benefit the students, and how can we make that a reality. And I think that that's a conversation that we're going to have. Take a look at a rubric, take a look at what are the needs of the schools. You've got Conant, which is very close to where the property is. Are there some needs that our school has here? Are there some programs that maybe if we needed to put a building on there, is there something that can be done there? That was one of the suggestions. I think we need to explore it a little bit more before I make a commitment in regards to it.
Yeah, I know, maybe we should go over to the other piece of property and build a rock climbing wall, or, turn it into some, look at our schools. Look at the facilities, go to any one of our schools, and look at the facilities that we have. They're tremendous. They're phenomenal. Go out and look at the fields, look at the football fields, the baseball fields, all of these things. We don't need that property to turn it, we don't want to turn that property into something that is going to be another drain on funds. We want to turn that property into something that is revenue positive. Now, I'm not saying you can't turn it into something that's revenue positive and it not have a benefit to the school system, right? By definition, if you're getting revenue from it, it should have a net positive impact on the schools. Whether that is facility improvements, new textbooks, whatever it is, okay? But the last thing we need to do is to start another special program around that piece of property.
Can I just add something? I guess this is again maybe speaking from my own personal view. I would say, if I had a piece of property that's been sitting there for 30, 40 years and it's not generating any, income, and for me, that's not sound financial management. So that's my only comment for that.
Where are we, over here?
This is my name. The question I have is basically for this.
From the area?
Oh, yes, Schaumburg.
Thank you.
My question is basically for the slate. You advertised that you wanted the slate prioritize the operational funds in a more efficient way. I think everyone agrees that we have an excellent school district, and I'd like to know how you plan to prioritize the operational funds in a more efficient way, specifically.
One of the things that I think encourages efficiency is the use of multiple bids for vendors on particular projects. I think there are certain projects that have come up where there really weren't as many bids on that we could have asked, multiple vendors to bid on things. I'm not necessarily interested in cutting any programs. I think we have a valuable, well-rounded curriculums in place as well as programs in place for our kids. We have, they're countless. I get confused by all the different clubs and activities that my children can get involved in. So that's not our priority, but really what we're looking at is to make sure that we're using our funds efficiently.
Sure, completely agree. So I represent the board on the, I go to all the bid openings. I open every bid. I spent the last 3 days opening bids, 30 to 50 every day. Today, yesterday, and the day before. If we don't get competitive bids, we rebid things. But we do get competitive bids, lots of them. There's a reason for that. We're a high-quality district. We pay our bills. We bid projects early. We plan them with long time horizons. So there is not even a blip in the educational experience of our students during the school day when the construction projects are ongoing.
Yes, my name is James from Palatine. This question comes out of what Ralph alluded to, lack of transparency. So I'm asking the question because I don't know why the decision was made. It's real short, and it's to all six, and I'm satisfied with a yes or no answer. When a person is born, a medical professional looks at them and assigns them their sex by simply looking at them, their biological sex, male or female. My question is this: a person who was born male, do you all believe that that person who was born and assigned male can switch and be female at some point in their life? Because I don't understand the reason the decision was made in 2015. So I'm satisfied with a yes or no answer.
You're my favorite person so far to ask the question. Yes or no answer?
No.
No. Are you asking from the personal
Yes or
point?
no answer? Yes or no answer?
Even after if they become an adult, they can like perform the sex operation, right? So,
You like to abstain? Do you mind if she abstains?
well, I don't know if that's relevant for as a school board member. I don't know how relevant is that. So, I guess I have to think about that a little bit. Yeah.
Does anybody want to?
Yeah, I do, I want to respond. You need to watch this television show by Katie Couric called Generations. And basically, it talks about the physical aspects of what's happening in the mind of these people that are transgender as well as, and just because not everybody's born male and female, there are some people that are born with both sexes, of which then the doctor will make the determination of what sex it would be, and a lot of times that's not correct.
Yes or yes or no? Yes. Yes.
Okay, the question is, can someone change their sex? And obviously, we've seen that happen, so yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. I was thinking about that program. I watched it, and I kind of got lost in what he was saying, so thank you for keeping me on my toes. Over here.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stephanie Pirtles. I'm from Schaumburg. And a lot of you have talked tonight about your personal values and community values. I can appreciate that. I think one of the things that we're dealing with is really ignorance. So I wanted to ask you what you're going to do to ensure that our children received fact-based education, comprehensive sexuality education that addresses LGBT issues, that addresses consent, and that addresses diverse genders.
It starts over here. Or did you ask the slate specifically?
I would be happy for an answer from anyone and everyone.
It's your turn, so go ahead, somebody over here.
So first of all, science, I'm not a science expert, that's my wife. What will I do to ensure that we get a high quality education that addresses all those issues? I will rely on our teachers that teach those subjects.
Where they get their information from.
Okay, well, you're out of line, ma'am. You're out of line. You folks like to take it.
I agree with your statement when you said facts. What I would like to hear is facts. I don't want to hear social agendas. I think that's really what we need to basically focus on, is exactly what you said, facts. And really, it needs to be a balance of information from both sides of the spectrum. There's differences of opinion, and I respect differences of opinion, and I think really having a one-sided view of everything, you're right. We may not represent everyone in the community, and really the voters will decide who we represent. And we are listening to as many opinions as possible, because that's what we want to do, is represent everyone, or represent the majority's opinion. Not everyone's going to agree with us, and I'm not going to agree with everyone, but that doesn't mean I hate the person, I can't live with the person, I can't respect the person, really, and that's where we stand, so.
Didn't really fully answer my question, but I appreciate the effort.
You're going to like me too. This is a yes or no. Do you believe that using the opposite sex locker room is a fundamental right?
Everybody. Yes or no?
Oh, definitely no. No, that's not a right. No.
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 Yes.
Restricted access, yes.
It's not a right for anybody, it's a privilege to use the facilities here. It's a privilege to be in this community and experience what we offer students here.
All right, yes or no? All right, yes or no? Over here. All right, I know. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Hope. I'm a senior at Palatine High School. So there's been a lot of talk about lowering property taxes today, but I would like to know the specifics about how you're actually going to lower property taxes without cutting the programs that are essential to our schools and also without lowering our quality of education.
As a future teacher of 2 Proudly, I say that. Who would you like to answer first, ma'am?
I'd like the slate to answer first.
Sure. Well, we talked about prioritization earlier, right? And so I'm a big believer. I mean, I do this with my team because, you know, sometimes we only have so much money and we have to say to ourselves, well, okay, we've done everything we can. Now let's look at, we all agreed on these priorities. Now let's go to whatever is at the bottom of the priority list. And a lot of times that's what happens when you have to make difficult decisions. You sit down, you develop a set of criteria that help you determine what your priorities are, and everything in the school district should have a priority to it, whether it's, you know, the athletic fields and all the maintenance and stuff that goes into them, you know, the value we put in our teachers, the value we put in the diversity of the programs that we have, which programs, you know, are higher on the totem pole, which programs are lower on the totem pole, because, you know, this is a fact of life. You know, you're a young person. You know, there's going to come a time in your life where maybe you'll have a family, maybe you won't, but you'll have your own budget, and you're going to have a budget, and at the end of the day, you're going to have to live within that budget, and you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And so I can't give you, I can't stand here and give you the precise criteria and list out that, give you that whole prioritized list and what would be on the bottom and what would be on the top. But suffice it to say, we have to have a list like that. We have to be responsible in terms of how we're allocating funds and how we're prioritizing the use of those funds. And if the state of Illinois comes up with some, you know, far out in left field, you know, Martian mandate that we have to comply with and we have absolutely no recourse, and we're $15 million short, and somehow we have to come up with that $15 million, we better have a prioritized list of things that we can go to and work off of that is, you know, pre-agreed on.
Okay, but my issue with that analogy is that my future budget won't affect the thousands of kids that participate in these programs.
I answered your question.
Okay, wait, this side would like to say.
Just very briefly, every year we look at efficiencies that we can do, and we do ask our superintendent to review the budgets and things of that nature, and we have made it very clear that, you know, that our educational priorities are first. I mean, that offering things for our students, the education, the opportunities that we have. So we try to look at things that are not going to affect the students directly, where we have to make some cuts.
If I can just supplement that for a second, I have three very specific things. The district's been doing several things that do not affect the classroom and do not affect the programs, but continue to improve cost savings and reduce waste. Number one, energy efficiencies. All the light bulbs are being swapped out. We have constraints on the time of day that we heat and cool the schools during the winter, during the summer. During the summer, we run our summer school programs at one school and shut down another school completely to save money. That money then gets redeployed in the classroom to help the students, number one. Number two, 10 months from now, you will be debt-free. Reduced savings, no more debt payments, no more interest expense. Number three, the district recently started on a program similar to the debt reduction where we are fully funding or attempting to fully fund or on a path to fully fund our IMRF pensions, at the same time reducing the cost of carrying the burden of unfunded pensions. Those are three things. Don't affect the classroom, but will allow us to save money.
We'll allow another 1-minute follow-up by the slate.
Two of the things that we talked about before, one was the 2 parcels of land. I mean, that's something that we want to take a look at carefully, and, you know, perhaps if they can generate revenue, then it wouldn't take away from any of the programs from the students themselves. 2, there's a large reserve right there sitting that I talked about. It's, you know, we're over the 50% mark when the board policy, not the one that we agreed on, but the board policy was already stated to be at 33%. So, I mean, they have the funds. At this point, you know, there's nothing that's going to be cut that we're looking at, you know, and obviously what Ralph talked about is we need to be responsible with the budget. I mean, he's talking about just how to run the budget, but you're talking about more things that are in the future. I mean, those are things that we have to think about as well, and our priority is our kids because we're all parents.
It's beyond 8:45, but we only got a couple votes left, so I think it's out of respect for these people, let's let them ask their questions. and then we'll conclude this evening's event. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Len Green. I'm a 25-year resident of Palatine. My question is directed to Mr. Lefebvre, and it is really an extension of the question that Hope raised a few minutes ago in a way, so perhaps she might take it. Mr. Lefebvre, you talked tonight a lot about stability and steadiness in the financial structure of the district, and I'm paraphrasing. But I put it to you that I see that that's not quite an accurate representation. The 2007 referendum created a property tax increase that injected over $40 million into fund balances, and that's not declined. In fact, in spite of being able to manage the obligations under labor contracts and services, etc., it seems to me, I don't understand, and here's another my question, I don't understand why you claim stability when in fact it is steadily increasing taxes. That's the situation. We can achieve our obligations under costs without steadily increasing taxes.
And so the referendum was in 2005, not 2007. Stability though, our programs are absolutely stable. No programs are cut. The closest thing we got to ever cutting a program was the implementation of the Chinese language program at all schools. And then at some schools where demand declined to a point where they were not sustainable, it was unfortunate that students that entered the program as a freshman and then as a sophomore were not afforded an opportunity to finish 4 years of the language after it was removed from the school, although they could have transported themselves to another school to continue and complete 4 years. That is an unfortunate thing that happened, but otherwise, we are absolutely stable here with our programs and sustainable.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm from Palatine. I'm a senior from Palatine High School, and this question is for the panel. In what ways, if any, will the board try to engage and inform the families in this community that are unable to view or in some cases not comprehend the videos or ways discussed earlier tonight?
So,
in what ways, if any, will the board try to engage and inform families in this community that are unable to view or in some cases comprehend the videos or other ways that were spoken about earlier tonight?
Are we talking about like language barriers and things of that
Yes,
sort?
like language barriers or any
Is
other.
everybody clear on the question? Who would you like to answer?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I think the question was, what if someone who, say, has like hearing impaired or language barrier, then how would they understand the video? Is that the question?
Not entirely, essentially, but the whole other ways that you would try to incorporate the other families that aren't really involved in this type of community. Predominantly those who are unable to speak English or unable to voice themselves in the special needs community.
Right, okay. Definitely, I would say, our community has been, become more diverse. If you look at the demographic, we definitely have people from, newly immigrants, from different ethnic background. So definitely that's a good, that's an excellent question. And I would say, again, the boys serve the whole community, okay? It's not just serve one group. So, when the specific situation, like you said, come up, we're definitely gonna, look at it, and then we're gonna, come up with the situation, and then we'll talk to, engage the community and come up with a, good solution that will, address it. So, does that answer your question?
Not really, it's more like in what ways, but.
So that was a big issue that came up in the community engagement project where I read some of the responses, and one of the big, conclusions was that you're correct. There's a lot of families who, where English is their second language, where they're not necessarily engaged or as involved, and really still the responsibility is on the families, but one of the things that I was thinking about that we could implement is there's a lot of members of the community who are bilingual, and it could be something where you can volunteer. We could try to engage parent volunteers to help translate some of this material, to help break it down for those families where, who have immigrated here more recently, because it is difficult to understand the terminology. I mean, it's difficult for the regular taxpayer to understand all these terms and how it really affects their bottom line. So I agree with you in that sense. We have to talk about it as board members and with the administration. I mean, this is a great project for teachers who maybe, have language classes to ask them to do extra credit. Any language teachers out there? This would be a great extra credit project to help, fill that need. And I do agree with you that is a true need.
You have 3 minutes.
That's an excellent question. And that's something we did not discuss when we were looking at videotaping the board meeting. So I think that's really great. One of the things to keep in mind is we do offer college night in Spanish because we have a huge Spanish population. Palatine High School does a number of things for the Spanish community. So we try to reach out and to do those things. I think this is something that the board can take a look at and explore different ways of presenting that information that's taped to non-English speaking families possibly if they're interested. I think as far as the digital divide, I know we had talked about that, and I believe we were looking to do something to help those families who do not have internet accessibility to see about getting them some type of internet accessibility at a reasonable rate. I know we had talked about that, but I don't recall where it's at right now.
Yes.
Illinois has no budget and no one likes paying taxes.
Can we have your name and where you
Oh,
live?
Kim. I'm Kim and I live in Palatine. Even as our state legislator debates a statewide 2-year property tax freeze. Public education isn't free, and we need to protect our public schools and our community. This is for the slate. Yet your primary reasons for running are number 1, a backroom policy, and number 2, cutting your own personal property taxes. So how is that at all representative of public education, public educational governorship as the job stands?
You understand the question?
I guess first of all, I don't agree with your statement that our number 1 issue is the bathroom locker room policy. It might be the issue that first initially got me interested in running, but as a candidate, I don't think that was our slate's number 1 issue. And you can go out, look at our literature, look at our website, and I think our main agenda is actually being fiscally responsible. And also, as I talked about earlier, I think as a school board, my number 1 concern is the education and it's our children, and also represent the community's value and belief.
I think that question was kind of the foundation of this, like, education, Mrs. Morrison. Maybe one of you 3, would you like to speak to the foundation of the reason you're running, the platform of your campaigns? It's been clearly stated. Okay, last question.
Hi, my name is Steve Alden, and I get the last question, I guess. So this is for all of you, and it's the one thing that I haven't heard tonight, and it's important to me, which is the members that are currently on the board. Ed, I think you were on the board before. And I will turn it around the opposite for you guys, which is to say, you've been on the board for many years now. I think, Anna, you said that you've been on for 20 years. The question is, what fresh ideas are you going to bring to the board?
Who would you like to start with, Ed?
Yeah, Ian.
Okay, any comments? That's a great way to, Ed, I couldn't ask for a better way to finish. Thank you.
We can only take so many fresh ideas at a time, but since I arrived in 2005, you've begun the accelerated repayment of debt. As of recently, you've begun the accelerated funding of IMRF pensions. Fresh ideas to renovate and update and upgrade our facilities. Turf was brought to all the facilities to improve the utilization of the limited space that we have. Schools that are built today are built on acres 50% greater than 4 of our schools and equal to the size of 1 of our schools. So we need to improve the utilization of space. We're continually looking to do that and keep our facilities well maintained so that we're not an old and outdated school district.
I agree with what Mr. Lefebvre had said. I also look at trying to include students more in getting information from them sharing their concerns, their ideas with us. The televising of the board meetings, that's something that I've been pushing for a while. The dual credit classes, the college and career readiness, things that we can offer to our students to help them become better potential employees. So I believe that I still have some fresh ideas and can bring those forward.
Interesting question. I think in essence it's important to keep pace with the world today. In other words, we have to constantly renew our thoughts and our ideas to what is important to the students and what are going to assist the students. Such as the introduction of technology that was done in the past. We have to look to see if in 2 or 3 years the iPads are not the tool to use, but something else might be the tool. Ideas are generated by what's happening now. We can't live in the past. We always got to move toward the future, and we always got to strive to make sure that our kids have the best opportunities to achieve their goals, and that's in college as well as any sort of trade program that they may want, or if they decide to go to the military. I think it's important to lead those options, to develop those options, but also, as Mr. Lefebvre says, we have to keep the facilities up. In other words, we can't let our facilities, if they're utilizing some sort of different things for science or math, well, science, like your labs, we have to update our labs then to keep pace with what's there. We don't want our kids going, you know what, I'll be honest, Product Chicago Public Schools. When I went to college, I was far behind from all the other suburban schools, simply because CPS at that time, and this is before your time, Ralph, was way behind, and I was lost my first year at U of I. So I think that was one of the reasons why I came to this district, because I didn't want my kids to feel like they were behind.
Go ahead.
A few ideas that I had here in no particular order was earlier I had mentioned an increased focus on vocational and trades programs. I think that's necessary, and I think we need to start that movement soon. And I think we need to work with the administration to figure out how we can emphasize the skilled trades a little bit more. I also think that I mentioned the hands-on iPad orientation with the district parents, just to better help them understand the technology, help them to be able to work with it, and to better be able to control it as they see fit for their family and for their kids. And I know that the district has gotten better with their various tiers of security and filtering that they put in place, but it doesn't cover everything. And parents should have the knowledge and the know-how to be able to go into those devices and make adjustments as they feel necessary for their particular situation. And then finally, access to faith-based counseling through partnerships with local houses of faith, I feel is important as an alternative to kids who are struggling or having issues. That if they don't feel comfortable seeing a psychologist or working with school medical staff, that the district would develop relationships with local churches and houses of faith, as an avenue for the kids. Thank you.
Just a few ideas that I have is, one, we talked about community engagement quite a bit, was a big topic, and I'd like to see an ongoing process for getting feedback on a regular basis, not necessarily having to do it every 3 years or 5 years, and follow up to actually see what's going on, what are the metrics to the goals that have been put in place, You know, one thing that was brought up, and I was so glad that that student mentioned diversity, and that's one of the reasons, you know, I'm running as well, is I'd like to see more diversity on the board itself. And, you know, including those, I mean, we really do have quite a huge population of different minorities in our makeup, in our student makeup, and so I really would like to see some of those needs being met as far as communication goes to those parents and families who may be having a difficult time. You know, why not engage students who are bilingual and asking them to help out in those areas? And you know, one thing that, I mean, it's one thing I just want to make clear that, you know, we haven't had, you know, when back to that collective bargaining, we haven't had board representation in the years that, you know, our incumbents have served, and that's something that we've talked about tonight, although they're talking about it now. So that's one of the things that I feel like is a fresh new idea.
Well, thank you, Mr. Alban, for asking that question. Looks like I was the first one to speak, and I'm going to be the last one. Okay, may I say that I'm actually proud to be the fresh voice, you know. I'm proud to be non-incumbent, actually. I mean, I didn't decide to run because, you know, I decided to run because I see things that I don't like, okay? And I'm not satisfied with the current board is doing. So I think being new doesn't mean necessarily bad, right? New, you can bring in new ideas, and I think we have a strong slate here. And, you know, with me, I have many years of, you know, financial experience, and Kate has strong communication, and Ralph is very strong with IT. So I think none of us, you know, would have run if we didn't, you know, we were satisfied with what the current board is doing. So I think the idea here is not because it's not the new or old or new or current. I think the idea is we want to make sure the board is doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is represent the community. And I think we feel that we could do a better job.
Thank you all.
Well, we survived. I want to thank these 6 candidates. This is a very grueling process. I want to more importantly thank every one of you. This was exactly how I envisioned this event. You were respectful, you were kind, you asked the difficult questions, and you politely listened as these candidates provided their responses. As a point of clarification, I've been here since 1987 as a teacher. I have been negotiating contracts as the union president or in some capacity since 1989. 5 superintendents. I've known 6, and I've negotiated with 5. Through each contract negotiation, the board was very aware of what we were doing in those sessions. In fact, when I started, the superintendent then used to call the board president directly. But I can assure all of you, from my perspective, as the lead negotiator in this district for almost the last 30 years, the Board of Education knows what happens when I sit and talk to or with the central office and the superintendent. As far as putting a board member in the room, hey, I was raised by an Italian woman. We always have room at the table, the way I was raised. Thank you for coming this evening and have a great night.